and I'm going to hope that it doesn't kick me off again. So we're halfway on the bar to go live stream. And it has. One moment, everyone. I'm just going to put up. Okay. Good evening. So welcome tonight. I'd like to welcome you to Wincanton Town Council full council meeting on the 14th of September at 7:01 p.m. If this is being taped on Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. Can I just check for our locum clerk? Can I just read off those councillors that are in the meeting to aid our locum clerk? So we have Councillor Ralph, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Waters, Councillor Power, Councillor Smith, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, and Councillor Shelbourne-Barry. Is that okay, locum clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. Can I ask that if you start to get background noise in the meeting, can you mute yourself to enable others to hear, just because it makes it easier for everyone? And can I now just check that all of you have received the papers, so the agenda and papers for tonight's meeting? Can I have a show of hands, please? So that's a full set, apart from Janet, who is public participation. Thank you.
Only Howard.
I'm Howard.
Janet, would you like to mute yourself? Thank you. Okay, so moving into the agenda. First of all, we have public participation, but before we start, what I'd like to do is remind public participants that it's 3 minutes per person, no more than 20 minutes. And once that's completed, as a member of the public, you are no longer able to contribute to the meeting unless I invite you to do so. Okay, so moving into public participation, can I ask who would like to speak, please? Yes, Janet.
I'd like to address this meeting regarding funding, or rather lack of funding, for the sports ground. At the end of the full council meeting on the 10th of August, it was requested that the topic of urgent funding for the sports ground be a specific item on the agenda at the next meeting. This request was not granted, and I believe the subject has been pushed back until later this month. Is this a deliberate tactic to push the sports ground to the brink of closure? As long ago as the 1st of February, before lockdown and all its implications, Sean Corney from the Management Committee contacted the council, willing to arrange a meeting to discuss in more detail his email highlighting concerns. To the best of my knowledge, this was not acknowledged, and his offer of a meeting was never taken up. At the precept meeting earlier this year, following a proposal from Councillor Shelbourne-Barry, the funding to the sports ground was cut by 1/3. I would like to ask the council, and in particular Councillor Shelbourne-Barry, if when this decision was made, was consideration given to the formal legislated agreement between District Council and Wincanton District Council in about 2007, that District Council would be responsible for supporting the leisure centre and Town Council would be obligated to support the sports ground. If not, I would suggest that this is given consideration before the subject of funding is next up for discussion. Whilst the sports ground has suffered a radical cut in their funding, the Balsam Centre were awarded the full amount they requested, and since then they have been awarded a further £4,525, making the total funding from the council £16,385. The council has asked the sports ground to give a business report and update on how things are progressing before releasing further grant money. Has the council asked the Balsam Centre to do likewise, or don't they have assets of interest to public and local developers? If this council had any independent, free-thinking members with integrity and a genuine concern and interest in the future of the sports ground, they would know that although the charitable trust that owns the property has cash assets, due to Charity Commission guidelines, they are unable to use this to support the sports ground. Finally, on an unrelated subject, I would like to ask Councillor Power whether he believes that seconding a motion to accept the disciplinary procedure policy when, by his own admission, he had not read the document, was the action of an aspiring politician, or rather that of a well-trained lapdog. Thank you.
Could you mute yourself again just for noise, please? Thank you. Councillor Power, you don't have to respond at this time. Can I now invite any other members of the public who wish to now speak? Mr. Allard, sorry.
Thank you. You will be aware that I, along with 5 other residents of the town, wrote requesting a town meeting some weeks ago. The letter was acknowledged as having been received. I wondered if you could update the town as to your progress with organising that meeting, please. Secondly, I know that you have to fill in an AGAR and that your deadline was the end of August. I would like to know what your progress as a council is with performing that function. Thirdly, there have been a number of questions asked by members of the public in the last 2 months. I have yet to see any of them answered. Do you intend to answer any of those questions, and if so, when? Fourthly, I note from your agenda that councillors are being asked tonight to sign the Nolan Principles. Why are you doing this when you have already signed up to them when each of you accepted the position of councillor? Under what authority or legislation are councillors being asked to sign this? It is in fact already enshrined in your code of conduct on page 1. That's my questions.
Thank you. So in terms of response to the questions regarding the grants, they're on the agenda for the next meeting, and we will be discussing that at full council on the 28th. Sorry, do you wish to speak, Ms. Carter?
Yes, I did raise my hand earlier. Yes, I did. I would like to. Well, I had made 2 written complaints to the council, 3 in fact, 2 that were procedural, and I have had a written reply. So thank you for that. It arrived through the post. However, those replies, one of them completely and utterly fails to answer any of my complaints. You have responded with, well, quite honestly, your replies wouldn't pass the GCSE O-level. You do not answer the complaints I made. Your responses are not to my actual comments. Secondly, I want to know, as they were clearly written complaints, procedural complaints, have these been through the complaints committee? If so, when? And I would like to find out the date and the time of the minutes for that meeting, please. You've signed this letter, Wincanton Town Council, not a clerk, not yourself, but the whole council. Can you reassure me that all 15 councillors, as were then at that time, had discussed, agreed, and were happy with your response? Because if they weren't, and it wasn't discussed at full council, and if those replies weren't a full agreement, I will have to accelerate this as a fraudulent reply, which becomes a code of conduct complaint and will go to district council. You cannot sign a document, Wincanton Full Town Council, if you don't have all their agreement. And I'm asking councillors, all of you, are you happy? Are you happy that answers like this are going out in your name when you haven't been consulted. That's my first point. Secondly, my other written complaint was just suggesting that all councillors need to remember that if you receive gifts from business people, there's no problem with that. There is no problem with that. You have to record it. And I asked you about one particular councillor. It's not personal, it's just procedure. And your reply was that I should investigate it further. Really? My responsibility? I'm sorry, but that's your job, Madam Chairman. I'm not doing your investigating for you. That's your responsibility. And let's face it, do you really want me doing more investigating? I don't think so. So my third point, are councillors, serving councillors, now obliged to get your permission to take interest, to involve themselves with voluntary groups? One of your town councillors, who is actually being very active, very proactive, and quite honestly working harder than the rest of you, I think, wanted to meet some representatives of a local community group. And that town councillor was told that she couldn't do it because she wasn't the link councillor. So are you now saying, Madam Chairman, that councillors, serving councillors, can't take part in their own hobbies, their own interests? They can't show an interest in a community group or support them unless under your leadership you approve? So could you make a public statement about that, please, to any of the possible 5 candidates who are thinking of coming forward for election? Can you advise them as to whether they are going to have to restrict their interaction and who they meet and interests that they show? When you finally got a councillor who is working hard and is really proactive, you tell them not to do anything. And if they're not the link councillor for that particular community group, then who is?
Can I ask that you draw your message to a close, please?
Yep, fine, said enough, but have a think about it, everyone.
Thank you. Sorry, so I recognise there are 3 members of the public on the call. I've heard you three individuals speak. In terms of your comments, they are noted and responses will be following in due course. So I'm now closing public participation and moving into the formal agenda. So in terms of next point on the agenda, apologies. To note those councillors unable to attend. I'm aware of one apology, and I note tonight, I'm just wondering if Councillor Vag is struggling to get in, because I expected her to be on the call. She confirmed she was attending tonight, but I'm aware that Councillor Gazine has sent her apologies. Are you okay with that, Locum Clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. Does anyone else does anyone else know of anyone else? I'm just looking at the numbers, sorry. Thank you. So in terms of the next item on the agenda, 2, declarations of interest, members to declare any interest they may have in agenda items that accord with the requirements of the Council Code of Conduct. So can I ask, on the items that are on the agenda tonight, do any councillors? Yes, Councillor Greening.
Obviously, I have a pecuniary interest on the Christmas lights, point 9.
Okay, so you're declaring an interest and also for pecuniary aspect. Thank you. Anyone else in terms of councillors tonight and in terms of the agenda? No, thank you. Moving on to minutes of the previous meeting. So councillors would have had the minutes of the meeting of the 24th of August 2020. Can I ask that you've all have those in front of you, and can I ask now that you state if you wish to propose any amendments? So 0024, 0025, 0026. So I'm hearing no one wishing to make any amendments. So understanding orders 12C around accuracy, I'm taking it that these are an accurate recording of the Monday, the 24th of August 2020. So can I therefore have a proposal for this meeting, a proposer for these minutes, please? Councillor Ralph, and can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Greening, and can I have a vote from council, please? And can you clearly make sure your hand is visual in the screen? So I'm going to start with Councillor Greening, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Smith, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Ralph, and myself, Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow. Thank you. And there's no one voting against, because I believe that's a full set. So thank you for that. These will be recorded as a final version, and an e-signature will be added to the minutes and uploaded onto our website. So thank you for that. Okay, moving on. We're now moving on to planning. We have one item of planning on the agenda, and I'd like to invite our planning officer, Councillor Thomas, to respond.
Hello. So just one item, as you say, it's planning application 20/02172/HOU. Installation of French doors to replace an existing window at Caversham Court, the Batch. It's the large building with a large multi-paned glass bow window near the river, opposite near Bridge Motors, and it's the side elevation, sort of east facing, so facing back towards Mill Street. It's basically a window that they want to just turn into French windows. There are no comments from anybody against or for. In the pre-application advice on the application itself said, although planning permission will be required, if you decide to go forward with an application for the installation, I would suggest that the local planning authority would look favourably upon the proposed development given the positioning to the rear of the property. So it's pretty hard, even if they are put in, it'd be very hard to see them anyway. So, and as I said, no objections.
Okay. Just making sure that, thank you. Any comments from councillors on the planning application? Yes, Councillor Ralph.
My only comment is to say that I pretty much agree with everything Ian just said. I couldn't see how it would overlook anyone. I'm not as experienced as others in planning yet. I couldn't see any problems with this application.
No. Any other comments? No? So what I'm hearing then, we have no comments to actually, yes, Councillor Tudgay, your finger, could you raise your hand a little higher? I'm sorry, but it blurs, sorry.
I'd like to propose that we recommend approval for this application.
Thank you. So Councillor Tudgay is proposing recommendation. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Waters, and a vote supporting, please. So going around the table, I have Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Greening, Councillor Smith, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Ralph, and Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow. So that's a full set. Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Thomas.
Okay, thank you.
Now moving on to checks. So that's item 5 on the agenda, and this is to review, approve the list of payments in the first instance. So can I ask for any questions related from council to the checks list, please? No? Okay, thank you. So can I have a proposer for this item if there's no questions or comments required? Councillor Thomas, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Tudgay, and can I have a vote from the floor to support the September 2020 checklist? So I have Councillor Greening, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Smith, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Ralph, and Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow. So supporting is unanimous. Thank you. So the next item is to nominate 2 councillors who have the ability to sign cheques. So who would like to put themselves forward to do that? Councillor Waters and Councillor Tudgay. Thank you very much. And if you can go in tomorrow or confirm to the Deputy Clerk when you can go in to complete that task, I'd be grateful. Are you okay, Locum Clerk?
Yes, fine, thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the stakeholder group. So This item is to give colleagues who don't attend the stakeholder group and others an update on where we are. So at the beginning of this financial year, we commenced the Good Stuff Fund, and currently to date, we've had 4 projects that have been supported through the Good Stuff Fund, having gone through the stakeholder group and then through full council, which tonight we've supported the checks to release that money. And against each one of those projects, dependent on the size of the projects, there's clear governance in terms of what the expectation is from council in terms of reporting back to us on delivery of the aims they set out as part of each of those projects. And at the end of the year, there will be an expectation they come and present the good news from those projects as well. So we've completed 1 quarter. We're now moving into quarter 2, and we've had, I've seen 2 applications. I understood there was a third being developed, but nevertheless, there are 2 that we will review in October to go to full council for approval if they get through the stakeholder group. And then what the monies that are left over in the Good Stuff Fund will roll forward to the quarter that goes into quarter 3 into the beginning of quarter 4, where the monies will be reviewed again, and we will bring back an update on the budget, but also to identify those projects and how they're proceeding. In terms of the Good Stuff Fund, as part of Precept, we agreed a post to support the work and the year 1 plan. That post was appointed to on the 1st of July. The holder of that post withdrew their self from the role on the 1st of September. So we're now looking to consider what we do for the next 6 months to take our year 1 plan forward. And the year 1 plan is on our website under Wincanton for the Future. And we will continue to consult on that plan in terms of looking forward to see what the next year we might look to include. But obviously, because of COVID, some of the work hasn't been able to be taken forward because we were shut down in many ways. So at a future date, we will come back again to revisit the plan and check to make sure items within that plan can move forward to the following year plan, but also to consider new options that we will capture through engagement event with our residents. And this will ultimately be through pop-ups and or if we can come together, because obviously, as you're aware, we can't come together in the way we did hold our engagement events. So it's just to give you a verbal update at this time, and no action is required other than to note that we are progressing, projects have been secured, and we will be looking to secure a post to support the ongoing work within Wincanton for the Future and the year 1 plan. Moving on. Unless anyone has any questions from council. Yes, Councillor Ralph.
I just wanted to say that I found the stakeholder group it was such a good meeting to attend. I found it so encouraging. I would really encourage other councillors to come along and listen in. And also thank you to all the stakeholders that are engaging with us, because they are giving up their time and a lot of them are very busy people. And I hope this kind of thing, continue long into the future. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ralph. Any other comments from councillors? No, thank you very much. And points well made, Councillor Ralph, so thank you. We now move on to the Nolan Principles. So the Nolan Principles are enshrined in our Code of Conduct. Yes, Councillor Tudgay.
General.
Oh, sorry, I missed the general duties of
one. You've missed one.
Yeah, sorry.
Number
Beg your
7.
pardon. Thank you very much, the two, Richard, Locum Clark and Councillor Tudgay, for bringing that to my attention. So the general duties of representatives for outside bodies. So you will remember some months back, we discussed this, and Councillor Waters very kindly developed a profile for us to consider as council. And this was based on setting a format to enable councillors who attend outside meetings to then feel that they're understanding what their role might be in that role, whatever it might be, and then to bring that back to council on a regular basis in terms of feedback. And this is a two-way process. This is part of our ongoing communication with our outside bodies. So this provides a framework. So what we're looking to do today is to consider and approve the general duties of representatives to an outside body. Can I ask councillors, do you have any questions? No? Can I therefore ask, can I ask for a proposer to support this general duties of a representative appointed to outside bodies on behalf of Wincanton Town Council? Councillor Tudgay is proposing. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Thomas, and can I have a vote in support for the duties of a representative? And can I clearly see your hands, please, so that I can? So Councillor for, Councillor Greening, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Smith, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Ralph, and Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow. So thank you, that's unanimous. And this will be shared with councillors, and we will ask that you review these as part of your current roles that you hold. And we will release this to people new councillors who then start representing the council to external bodies. Now we move to point 8, the Newland Principles. Thank you very much. So this is, as you can see, the Nolan Principles are the 7 principles of public life. And yes, this is enshrined in our code of conduct, and we signed up to this as councillors. But as councillors, we felt it was timely to actually just state this is what we as a council are supporting, and this is what we work to. This is our ethos. Not only is it within our code of conduct and it's part of the ministerial code, but it's also something that Wincanton Town Council believe in and 100% support. So that's the reason for it coming forward today. So can I ask that councillors, if you have any comments related to it, you now speak, please? Yes, Councillor Tudgay.
I think it's a very good idea to bring this forward as a separate document, which all councillors sign. We should all sign them now, and all new councillors should sign them as a separate document. I fully understand what the speaker earlier in the evening said, and he is quite correct that they are enshrined in our standing orders. But having been subject to some very unpleasant verbal abuse by a then fellow councillor, I think it would do no harm at all to reinforce those principles on all councillors, both existing and future. And I therefore support fully that we issue these as a separate document, separate to our acceptance form when we sign to, on joining or re-election. And I therefore support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And any other comments? If not, are you stating you're proposing it, Councillor Tudgay?
I would like to propose, if nobody else will, I certainly will. Thank you.
Any other comments or a seconder, please, from council? Yes, Councillor Thomas, is it a comment? Seconded. Right, so we have a proposal, which is Councillor Tudgay to the Nolan Principles of Public Life. We have a seconder, Councillor Thomas. And can I ask then for a vote, clear vote from the floor, please, if you're in support? So Councillor Greening, Councillor Tudgay, Councillor Smith, Councillor Power, Councillor Waters, Councillor Thomas, Councillor Ralph, and Councillor Shelbourne-Barrow. So that's unanimous in terms of supporting each councillor to sign this both now and in the future. So thank you for that. And I note your comments, Councillor Tudgay.
Did Mr. Greening want to speak then? He put his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Zach, did you want to speak or is it?
I didn't. No, sorry.
Okay, Councillor Greening, thank you. Thank you, Locum, Clark. Right, that's interesting. Sorry, I've just lost you for a moment. I just need to get you back. Okay, so on the next agenda, we have, I still lost you. Why are you doing that? Okay. On the next item on the agenda is number 9, Christmas lights, to receive an update from Councillor Greening. So if I just provide an overview before we commence. So on the 13th of July, 0009, we discussed the Christmas tenders that had come forward and that they were unique. They were also under £5,000, therefore didn't require to be tendered. And we voted on the motion for the 2 tenders at that time, which were 8 for and 2 abstained. And it was proposed by Councillor Ralph and seconded by Councillor Vagg. However, on the 17th of July, Councillor Thomas withdrew his proposal for the project due to issues outside of the council. And we are now revisiting this only in terms of an update. So can I ask firstly, because this is only an update, Councillor Greening, that you provide an update for us?
Yeah, from the last meeting that we had, you were just looking for confirmation, written confirmation from the headmaster of the Blue School, which was forthcoming. And they are happy for me to come in to do the 3 days workshop with the children to build the Christmas lights installation in the co-op tree.
Thank you. So this was checked prior to any change. Have there been any changes since the change in national policy tonight to schools, or is it all external to schools?
No, as far as I'm aware, things haven't changed. Graham Wilson will notify me if any amendments are made that affect the workshops.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of, we've already proposed and supported this project to continue. Councillor Greening has done what he said he would do, which is come back with an update, having spoken to the head teacher of the primary school, which he's done and represented today. So in that context, we would now invite, as far as I'm aware, unless any other councillor wishes to make a comment, or the locum clerk, that Councillor Greening now moves forward to actually organise that event with developing the icicles in the Christmas tree by the co-op, working with the children from the primary school. Any other comments? If not, we don't need to vote any further on it. So we note the update from Councillor Greening. Thank you. Moving on to number 10, which is the Town Council Grants Precept 2021. This is purely to note the grants application is freely available on our website for people to actually submit to. And I would ask that if you're interested in discussing the grant, you contact the office and they will advise you accordingly. But the deadline for the grant applications is, I'm just trying to see, it's not actually on here. Councillor Tudgate, do you know when the deadline for the date is? No. Can I ask, because it doesn't actually say it on the application, which is slightly remiss, but nevertheless, can I ask that you speak, if you're interested with applying for a grant, to do so? Yes, Councillor Thomas?
I think it says at the bottom, Friday the 30th of October.
Ah.
Grant application form must be received at Town Council by Friday the 30th in order for any grants to be considered.
Okay. I can't see that on my printed copy, so apologies. So thank you for that. So it's Friday the 30th.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So again, if you wish to discuss any applications, please go in and speak, or email or ring the clerk, deputy clerk, and we look forward to receiving your applications in due course. Okay, thank you for that. Moving on. Another item to note, and as exciting as the Town Council grants for Precept 2021, is our annual Community Awards 2020. And this is to note the dates, opening and closing of the awards for 2020. So again, the application form will be available on our website and closes on the 9th of October. obviously, and will be discussed, nominations will be discussed on the 26th of October. But what I would say to you is there's two things. Firstly, we have a new award, and the new award is for those under 25. And this enables us to identify young people that are not previously been identified within the award system. And in addition, we're structuring the award certificates differently to make them smaller, more sort of A4 size rather than full size as they have been previously, because it was felt it was better use of our funding, and it still gave the same support in terms of recognising people in our community, whether they be groups or individuals that are doing well, have done good work. The only issue I'm going to raise with you is not that we won't be completing this process, but that we don't know when we might be able to hold the award ceremony currently. So please, if you have some individuals under 25s or others or groups you wish to nominate, please do so. And as we move closer to, hopefully by the end of October, we'll have better sight on what we can do in terms of an award ceremony. But it may be that we don't hold the award ceremony to the following year, but that's yet to be discussed or agreed. So if I just raise that so that I don't, there's no breach of expectation that there is a risk around national policy for us coming together. Okay. Thank you very much. That's noted. Thank you very much. And it is exciting. We have an extra award this year for under 25s. Final item on the agenda tonight is correspondence. So there are a number of correspondence that we will be discussing tonight. So if I can draw people to the grid that was shared by the Deputy Clerk, stating the date that the correspondence was received and action taken. So in terms of point 1, there are a number of resignation letters that are noted on this document. We will, as council, be publicly responding and noting that service, the long-term service of individuals to the town and to the council in due course. But in this instance, we're noting that each one has been dealt with. So point 1, 2, and 3 resignations have been noted and the formal process completed. Point 4 is around live at home and information, and that's around the data and the activity. And I am aware from speaking with the manager of live at home that they are will not be fully operational in terms of their new model for offering groups and so forth, probably till next April. So we'll be looking as a town, as part of our town offer, to support those people that would have had access to groups in due course, working with other bodies in the town. Point 5 is the Word magazine requesting funding. And unless councillors put their hand up and state they want to talk or provide a comment, I will continue to talk just because I've got it in front of me, but please feel free to respond. Yes, Councillor Tudgay. Is this to go to point 5?
Yes, regarding the Word, I think the writer should be pointed towards the precept grant scheme for funding. I think our reply should point them in that direction.
Thank you. Anyone else around that particular comment, councillors? Yes, Councillor Greening.
I would agree with Ray on that point.
Thank you. Okay, so this isn't a formal voting, but we will ask the Deputy Clerk to contact the Word magazine and make them aware of the grant process in due course. Thank you for that. Point 6 is just a notification of licence for Hugo Coffee House on the pavement outside the coffee house. Are there any comments or from councillors on this? Because it doesn't require to go through planning. So no comments. Okay. So in terms of this, we are not opposing it. We're just not being made aware, and in due course that I'm presuming it will go through a process because they've completed all the paperwork to date. If we have no further comments. Point 7, SSDC of payphone consultation. I had a look at this. I don't know if councillors have. There's one payphone that's noted on the correspondence that will be impacted in Wincanton, in Carrington Way, due to the low numbers of low call numbers. Has everyone seen that? Does anyone have a comment in relation to that? So, Ray, you've taken yourself off mute. Do you want to talk to it, or Councillor Tudgate? No, he's put himself on mute. So what I would suggest is this document has been made available.
Sorry, Sue.
Sorry. Yes.
I thought Zach was going to speak, but
Yeah.
my only comment is that if the data shows that the telephone kiosk is not used, then there's very little point in keeping it, really. The only thing I wonder what happened to BT put in a planning application a few years ago to convert it to an ATM or add an ATM to the back of it, and I would like to know what has happened to that and whether they have any intentions of going ahead with that plan. But really, in reality, virtually everybody has a mobile phone these days. So, you know, sad as it may be, the telephone kiosk is days up, really.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Tuggett. Sorry, Councillor Greening. If I miss you because I don't see your hand go up, please say, because I'd rather you spoke out than I missed you.
Yeah, so after I don't know if you all remember the curation that happened with the plinth outside the post office. And after the lamp went back up, I wondered if there wasn't an opportunity to recreate that program somewhere within the town. And the phone box, I thought, made quite a good substitute or a replacement for that program. So I made some kind of preliminary inquiries with BT. And from that, I think actually they reinstated the phone line. And they do talk about the people adopting these phone booths, principally for cardiovascular kind of resuscitation purposes. But we already have one of those outside the library. And I wondered if the council didn't want to entertain the idea of adopting it to turn it into some sort of fifth plinth. Like I said, that kind of mirrors the plinth that was outside the town, outside the post office.
Any comments from councillors? Councillor Thomas and then Councillor Ralph.
It would be even if it's not being used as a phone box, it would be a shame just to rip it up. I agree it could be used for something. I know in Bath, in the pedestrian shopping bit of Bath, there's a phone box that's been turned into just a huge garden with flowers and plants coming out of the windows and going over the top and stuff. So it doesn't have to remain an empty eyesore. It could be turned into something useful, rather than just pull it out and leave a nasty hole in the pavement.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Councillor Ralph?
I was just going to say, when I read it, the deadline was the 30th of September. So I think there probably is opportunities here, though I wouldn't be the best person to suggest what they were. So if, you know, surely it's for someone to go off and do more research and then bring it back to our meeting on the 28th, which is what, just before the deadline, for when we have to say what we, you know, whether we adopt the phone box or not, I think is what the document said.
Yes. How do you feel? Yes, Councillor Tuggay.
I take on board what fellow councillors have said, but it's not like it's an old red telephone box, is it? It's not a particularly pretty looking object, or in my opinion anyway. You know, if it was an old red telephone box, and I would totally agree with trying to keep it and adopt it and do things with it, but it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's a bland sort of a thing in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Tuggay. Councillor Smith?
I agree. I think it's worth considering that whole area might actually be better served as a more open space. I don't know if it has potential for use as market area, but at the moment it's stuck there in the middle of what would otherwise be a nice open area, which might actually become more practically useful for functions and events if it was removed entirely.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Greening and then Councillor Thomas.
So whether it gets agreed or not that it gets replaced, I think if it does go, I think what would be really handy is if we were able to have a PowerPoint left in its place, because I think, you know, that area does kind of open itself up to opportunities for kind of community engagement, festivals, gatherings, you know. So if it is to go, I would like to see some sort of power supply being left in its place, because I think that imminently gives us utility for an area that's quite difficult to access, particularly for any sort of Christmas lighting installations, that sort of thing.
Okay, Councillor Thomas.
I think I made a mistake because I just had a picture of a red phone box in my head, and of course it's not a red phone box. Now I realise, and it is a very ugly thing, and I think it should be taken away.
Okay, fair enough.
In that respect, I agree with Councillor Tudgate that it's a bit of an eyesore, but also, as Councillor Greening said, something else could go in its place that could be much more useful. So
can I?
Councillor Tudgate.
Thank you. Is there a councillor who wishes to lead on this and work with our deputy clerk to actually understand what we can request as part of the consultation to bring it back to council on the 28th so we can then review it? Is there a councillor who wishes to lead on that?
Yeah, I'll lead on that.
Thank you, Councillor Greening. So Councillor Greening will lead on it, work with the deputy clerk, and then we come back with a paper on the 28th, which will be a good news story, I'm sure. What we can actually achieve if we remove the box, what are the opportunities there in terms of power, and you know, is that space then of it, they're not looking to put anything else in, they're actually going to make it good, and what would that look like? And any other good ideas that would come out of that? That sounds great. If anyone wants to work with Councillor Greening, I'm sure he'd be happy to take any volunteers to support him in that from council. And they're all stampeding towards you, Councillor Greening. Thank you anyway. Sorry? Yes, Councillor. Sorry.
I could just mention, which might help Councillor Greening, that when we had 4 boxes which we took over from BT in our parish, the electric supply, they did cut them off. But I believe what you can do is you can ask it to be changed into the town council's name, and then you would pay the bill for it. So your electricity point in it could be taken over.
Great.
Okay, so we just need to understand the costs associated with that and how we secure it so it doesn't become a free PowerPoint for the town. Not that I'm not open to people having access to free electricity, but unless we've got a panel or a wind turbine, I think that we'd need to look at that. But yes, thank you for that, Locum Clark. Moving on, 2.8. So the letter that we took, we're noting the correspondence for a town meeting signed by residents. We acknowledged it on the 28th of the 8th, 2020. And this will be on the agenda for the next council meeting in September, so the 28th of September, for a response. So that will be coming at that point from council. So thank you. Point 9 is a resignation letter, and as I previously stated, we've noted it, the process has been completed, and we as a council will be acknowledging long-term service in due course. Point 10 is the Wincanton Wheelers, so a notification of holding Wincanton Wheelers junior event in the recreation ground on Saturday the 19th of September at 2 p.m. So this is something that I believe may not have been through junior wheelers, but has happened previously. Are there any comments from council on this particular correspondence? No? Councillor Tudgay.
I think any use of the recreation ground is to be applauded, and I think we should welcome them and assist them in any way we can.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? My only concern would be, and it's about liability, it's that Wincanton Wheelers take responsibility to ensure they comply with national policy around COVID and groups of individuals in one place at any given time because of the limitation, although I recognise it's in an open space. However, I'm hearing from Councillor Tudgay, no one from council is saying differently. We support it taking place in the recreation ground, but that would be my only comment. Does anyone else have a view or comment against what I've just said in terms of councillors? No? Councillor Ralph.
Just to say, I support what you just said, and I was trying to think of an eloquent way to say that, really. I just think, you know, the rules change constantly, so we need all of our all of the people using our space to keep on it all the time. Yeah. So we're open to them using it, but it's their responsibility to ensure they comply with national guidance around groups meeting in COVID. Thank you. So we'll make the Deputy Clerk aware and she can respond accordingly. Letter from a resident regarding the Christmas budget. So this is a correspondence where a member of the public has come back and supported or noted the Christmas tree purchase or ordering of the Christmas tree. We've just lost 2 members of the public, I think, have just left the meeting. This is a piece of correspondence in terms of the Christmas projects, which we've previously discussed. And another member of the public has now left the meeting at 19:52. Does anyone wish to correspond or talk about this now? If not, we will respond back from council. Yes, Councillor Greening.
It's just a small point. She mentions the £2,000. Well, as we know, that's factually incorrect. So
yes.
In any correspondence, I just think it's worth noting that. You know, that's about it. That's all I would have to comment. Seeing as it seems to be kind of indirectly or directly directed at me, then I feel that we just need to put the record straight on that one. That's all.
Okay, so what I would ask the Deputy Clerk to do is prepare a response, and we'll share it with council to ensure that it meets our understanding of what we've agreed and the monies within the Christmas pot. Okay. Oh yes, Councillor Power.
Sorry. Oh God, am I sharing my screen?
No, you're not sharing your screen. Not to me anyway.
I think I read the correspondence. She suggested the money go to a charity, which or any charity in the town. Do you think that would be noted on that one as well?
We will respond to each point, I think. So there's the point about getting the financial budget correct in terms of what the project cost. Any other monies that are available within that pot are currently allocated to under Christmas and the Christmas budget. At this time, I'm not aware of any way we can actually move that particular pot of money towards releasing it to members of the public. We'd need to take a motion forward as council. So as that point, Councillor Tudgay, would you like to respond?
Just want to add in that we should also respond to the part of the letter that talks about the 2 different schools and why one school is involved and not the other. And I mean, I think we should just briefly touch on, you know, that both schools were originally in the plan, but unfortunately, yes. Due to circumstances, one has been withdrawn. I think we should just touch on that briefly, not go into too great a depth. Okay. But we should respond fully, I think, yes.
Okay, so each point will be responded to in due course, and we will bring that back and share that with council so that before it's released to the member of the public, council have supported that. Are you, is that okay, Councillor Power, Councillor Greening, Councillor Tudgay, who have verbally responded?
Yeah.
Thank you. Point 12 is in relation to AGAR. AGAR is on the agenda for the 28th of September. It is, as you can see in the correspondence, we had an extension to the end of August. We have now breached our statutory responsibility around AGAR. We've asked for a further extension to the end of September. We are currently in discussion with our internal auditor around the audit that was completed, and we hope to have resolution to report on the 28th of September to Council. As you're aware, each section 1 and 2 are individual and minuted in their own right, and we will provide an update in due course in relation to that. We also, just so everyone is aware, we've made Somerset Association of Local Councils aware that we have not met our section 1 of AGAR, and obviously we've gone through the right processes to gain the extension in the first instance. So unless any councillors have any comments, we'll discuss this further on the 28th of September. Thank you. 13 is notification of elections to do with the vacancies, and 14 is the resignation of Dawn Old, who was Councillor Old, that was received on the 7th of the 9th. So in terms of correspondence that has been shared with councillors, that's a full set. Does anyone have any comments? If not, we'll move on. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Greening.
Can anybody clarify for me the costing for the by-election in May? What that's likely to cost the town? Does anybody have that figure?
We can ask for that figure, but it will be based on previous years currently. So normally an election can cost £3,000, maybe £4,000. Because COVID is likely to still be active at that time, it may be a larger sum, but we need to clarify that as we do other costs associated with it. And when we do clarify that, we'll be having to protect that money within our budget for next year to ensure that we can financially cover the costs of election or any other costs associated with that. So as of yet, I can't respond because we don't have that information.
So, sorry, can I just ask another question? Say it's £3,000 to, is that, where in the budget is that likely to come out of? Is it coming out of next year's budget, or is it coming out of reserves? Or...
So, Councillor Tudgay.
I believe we will have to precept for it when we do the precept in the early part of next year. We will have to precept the sum of money in anticipation of that. I believe that would be my view of the way forward.
Thank you. And that would be a normal process.
So what I'm saying, in effect, if I may, sorry, Chair, is that the taxpayers of the town will have to pay for this election, you know, as they do for everything else. So it's just another cost on to the council tax.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions related to the correspondence before I close that item? No? Okay, thank you. Moving on, items for consideration at the next agenda. Councillor Power.
I've been contacted by a resident and she's asked for if we could put a few seats down in the cemetery, one at the cremation area and a few others scattered about, as it'd be good for the older people, or any residents to be exact, to be able to sit just and ponder really with their thoughts really. So I think it'd be a good idea to have some benches down there for them.
Thank you. Councillor Tudgay, with that, can I ask would that come under your work stream to do with?
I think it would be more likely to be open spaces, but
Okay.
this is something I want to talk to council about going forward. Is I'd already spoken with the clerk either late last year or early this year. I'm of the opinion that the open spaces and the recreation ground working party should be amalgamated, and then we could cover more as we've sort of not come to the end of the recreation ground, but we've spent a lot of time down there, and other areas need to be brought into the thing now, I believe. So that would be going forward. So yes, it's something I will put on my list to do going forward.
Okay, so in this instance, are we just noting this for the deputy clerk to include in open spaces? And then what are you, sorry, Councillor Greening, I will come to you, I apologise. And are you then saying you're going to put in a motion forward to discuss the merger of those groups in due course? Okay, thank you. Councillor Greening.
I'd just like to respond to Councillor Tudgay's comment about the open spaces and the benches being included in that. Ray, when you do that, give me, let me know when that process happens, because I've got some ideas about how some of the schools could, as part of their curriculum, their DT curriculum, perhaps they could design some benches, get that kind of community participation, educational quality going into it. I mean, I think we would have to kind of factor that somewhere in the precept, but I think there's a really good opportunity to get some kind of unique, designed by the community benches put in place.
Excellent. That's very exciting.
I would welcome that, Councillor Zach. I would welcome that, because the types of seats you can buy are very bland again, and you're very limited in types and sort of things.
Yeah.
So yes,
right.
I think that would be an absolutely brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Good.
I'll leave that, apart from making the clerk aware, I'll leave that with you, Councillor Tudgay, to move forward. Any other items for the agenda next time? Otherwise, Councillor Thomas.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. This is might not be the right place to ask this, but because I haven't been here. When was the last time we had a police report? Was it quite recently?
Yes. Did we have one last time or the time before? We have had a verbal police, a report shared with us in the last few months.
That's right. That's all. Not really. Thank you.
What I could do is ask the deputy clerk to identify the last one and share it with you if you would like.
Yes, I'm quite interested. I'd just like to see the difference between now and maybe this time last year.
Okay.
For obvious reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a very interesting report, which is not part of council, that's come out about social fabric and the changes in society that I will share with councillors offline, because I think that's also quite interesting, related to the same focus that you're looking at, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other items for the agenda? No? So the items I have, if I may, is AGAR, which I've mentioned previously. We also had a discussion, Councillor Tudgay, about Kale Park coming on to the agenda for next time, an update on where you are.
Yes, I'd like to give an update on things, what has happened in the park, and a couple of things that are in the pipeline for the near future. So yes, if we could put the recreation ground working party report on, please.
Brilliant, thank you. I also wanted to bring a WEEP update, which is Wincanton Ecological and Environmental Plan, in terms of where we are and any proposals that might be coming forward to go forward for the Good Stuff Fund, but also some of the really good work that's going on, and exciting and fun pieces of work, including a troll by the bridge, which if any of you haven't seen or heard about, it's going to be amazing. So I think there's some really good things that will be good to share. In addition, I'd like to understand where we've got to around our risk assessment for COVID, following the most recent changes, and if we need to look at not undertaking a risk assessment to return to chamber or another venue, but pause it for a moment, and it would be good to revisit that. And in addition to that, if there's any changes in legislation that mean that we have to revisit any of the skate park and other that we've opened in accordance with national policy, do we need to revisit that again if there's any changes? So I think we just need to touch base with this on a regular basis, just to make sure as a council we're meeting our statutory responsibilities for our community, and that we act accordingly as new advice and guidance is made available. So risk assessment for COVID, and also any changes in national policy. The town meeting, obviously I've already stated, will be on the agenda. I'd also like to revisit councillors that are elected to attend outside bodies, because we've had a change in councillors attending those, and some that have no longer in post. So it will be good to revisit that and identify any councillors who wish to step forward into any of those roles. And it is also possible, if more than one of you wish to be part of a particular body, that you do so, but within our newly structured duties for representatives to outside bodies. So that will be on the agenda next time. And in addition, it was timely. In September, October, we said we'd look at mid-year review of grants for those 2 grants that we said we would not pay the grant money in full at the beginning of the financial year. We'd pay for it in two segments, having met certain requirements. So on our next meeting on the 28th, we will have both of those grant holders providing a report against the letter we provided them when we released the money, and to then review as council whether we release the second portion of the money. And far as I'm aware, that's it. Unless anyone else can think of anything now, I've gone through that list. Obviously the normal agenda will sit as it does normally. Points 1 to 4, if there's 5, which are the checklist, they're normal structured as part of our agenda, and correspondence 12, and items for the agenda for next time will be on there. But and there will be another occasion where if you think of anything, you can come forward, but this is just to give our deputy clerk an opportunity to prepare the papers sufficiently before they're circulated. So, chaps, councillors, thank you very much for tonight. We've had some positive elements to our meeting tonight, and I look forward to meeting you over the course of September in various other council meetings, and in due course on the 28th at our full council meeting. Thank you very much, and good night. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Cat Locum.